Menopause. Ugh, that word. It's a topic that we don't often talk about or want to talk about or go through. But it's a journey every woman will experience. Today, we're diving into this subject with Dr. Terri-Ann Samuels. She is a urogynecologist focused on empowering women during this pivotal stage of their life. Learn how Dr. Samuels guides women through menopause and helps them to embrace this second chapter of life, and why understanding and valuing yourself during this time can redefine your future. When you subscribe to our show, you help us grow. Someone you know may need to hear this story, so please share with your family and friends and consider supporting our mission at therose.org. Let's talk about your breast. A different kind of podcast presented to you by The Rose, a breast center of excellence and a Texas treasure. You're going to hear frank discussions about tough topics, and you're going to learn why knowing about your breast could save your life. So, Dr. Samuels, we are so pleased to have you with us today, and I can't wait to talk about this subject. Mm-hmm. But first, let's give a little background. You are a urogynecologist?
Yes.
And explain exactly what that is.
This is a specialty just for women. It is a cross between urology and gynecology. So the easiest way to explain it is we call ourselves the quarterback of the pelvic floor, right? Permission to speak openly? There are three holes, right? Front, middle, back. So that used to belong to three different physicians, right? The front would be the urologist, the middle would be the gynecologist, the back would be the colorectal surgeon or gastroenterologist. But now, so then we created a subspecialty. You could train either OBGYN or urology, and we take the jobs of all those three just for the female pelvic floor. And they're all 2 centimeters apart, so it just all makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah. But why did you get so involved in that?
It's actually a pretty convoluted story, but I got introduced. I was doing OBGYN, and I had a fantastic mentor who, part of his shtick was to do medical missions, and he actually had a medical mission where he took residents to Kenya and did corrective surgery, in especially addressing fistulas in women, and took me with him, thought I had good enough hands, and I fell in love with it, and here we are.
The other subject that you are very, very interested in is menopause.
Ooh, babe. My babe.
Your babe. All right. So a lot of people still are uncomfortable talking about menopause, a lot of women.
Yes.
And, it still surprises me that even today, I went through this 20 years ago, and I can remember standing in a boardroom and having a hot flash in front of all the men. There was no other women, and thinking, what must they be thinking? And, I know I'm not going to come across as being confident and all the things you think. And I had one of them come up and say, do you have high blood pressure? And I was thinking, I wish I could have said back then, no, I'm having a hot flash. I'm in menopause.
Right.
But so why is it so hard for us to talk about it?
It's just the evolution. And I think as women, we run the world. We are the center of the universe. And the difficulty is that word or that time in our life has been kind of associated with us not being able to perform optimally, our body failing, we're aging, all the things that kind of and associated
go against our youth culture, right?
Yes. Exactly, and association with mortality, and so I think it's a very difficult subject. Number one, for personal reasons. Number two, from a societal perspective, if I look back at, say, my grandmother, she did not talk to my mother about puberty, right? Mm-hmm. That was not even a topic. You woke up one day, there was something in your ready underwear, and life went on. Right. Then in my generation, my mother did talk to me about puberty. It wasn't a thorough conversation, but I was aware of it. I knew something was going on. Now, going forward, for my daughters going through puberty, we are actually going to celebrate. We go and have a party. We make a big deal of the fact that something amazing is happening to you. Oh. So that's how I ask people to look at menopause, look at it from the perspective of people evolving in puberty. And now we're getting to the point where, hold on a second, we're not failing. There is a second chapter. Why don't we celebrate the fact that we're not bleeding every month and that we can do so much more? And now we have the wisdom, get the body to match and just look at it completely differently. We have not been doing that up to this point.
I love that. I love that analogy. My goodness. So what are some symptoms for our younger listeners?
Of course.
Who will someday, every woman's going to go through this.
Absolutely.
True.
If we live long enough.
Yes.
You know.
So go through some of the symptoms you have during menopause.
So the most obvious symptoms are going to be your hot flashes, your night sweats, brain fog is huge. Another new one, but very common, is joint pain. Definitely difficult sleeping, exacerbation of anxiety, depression. So those are just a few. We have probably up to 70. Symptomatology-wise, we're also now very much entertaining the idea that a lot of pathologies that are being managed, especially autoimmune things, just become much more difficult to manage as we lose those hormones. Mm-hmm. So the symptomatology can be 70 symptoms depending on where you are health-wise. But the ones I mentioned are probably the most common. And then you could talk about things like vaginal dryness, secondary to loss of estrogen, lack of libido. So, I mean, we could go on and on. But they're gradual and they're very much personalized. And not everybody has everything. It's just recognizing when that time comes that this may be secondary to just the change.
So do most women recognize it, or does someone see it in them and tell them?
So most of the time, well, someone is seeing them and telling them was really the where we were before. Mm-hmm. We're now getting to the point, and that's why we're doing things like this. This podcast is to allow women to recognize when these things are starting to change and when the time is right for you for intervention. Because I'm still at the point where I'm getting women who are coming into my office throwing chairs in the because they're just so frustrated, right? They've hit a wall in terms of symptomatology.
I remember that. And I remember the only thing, what was it? Some kind of black ash?
Black cohosh.
Yes, yes, that you're supposed to take. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't have anything spicy.
Right.
I couldn't drink wine. Mm-hmm. I mean, take away the wine and they're really going to see something. And what else was it? It was just so insane that was the only thing that was offered at the time.
That's right.
And, of course, being the feminist that I am, I kept thinking, guys get offered stuff all the time because there's been lots of good research. Women, not so much.
No. The WHI came out around that time, and that really shut things down. I mean, that's,
yes.
In many, at that time, I was a baby doc, and at that time, we heard the rumors, the shutdown came, and, you learned very little about nutrition and hormones in medical school. And so at that time now, people are talking to us about blue cohosh and black cohosh, and we were like, what are you talking about, right? Like, this is nonsense. But that was all we had, an antidepressants, in terms of trying to control symptoms for women. So unfortunately, that was what was what was left after the WHI, which we've since debunked, thank God.
You want to tell our listeners what that is?
WHI, Women's Health Initiative, was a massive study done where they started women on hormone after age 65. And the negative effects of the hormones were published and publicized extensively. The positive benefits were not. And it caused it was enough of a scare tactic that it actually caused all of us to stop giving hormones to women, actually stop completely. So we weren't even being selective about it. And not only that, we were actively going and stopping women from taking hormones. Fast forward 20 years later, without getting into huge amounts of detail, we were actually calculating how many women did we harm by taking them off their hormones. Right. So we're the pendulum, and if you have one gray hair, the pendulum goes from that side to that side, and now, hopefully we're getting back to the middle.
Hopefully, yes. So when a patient comes to you, and I have to preface this with, I was reading your comments, your approach, your philosophy about patients, and the one that struck me was you're not just looking at their body, you're not just taking care of their body, but you're also listening to their heart and their mind. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, a big part of that transition, when you go through puberty, right, you take a child and then you're taking them into a transitory time in their life where you're starting to talk to them as teenagers. They're not quite adults yet, but they're starting to think for themselves. And you actually have to start to get in touch with your kids, right? You have to understand where their mind is going, what they're thinking. It's no different from menopause. when you're what we call in our practice is second chapter management, right? So we're talking about taking you through this transition to the next 50 years. But if I don't hear where you really want to be, if I don't hear where your mind is, where your heart is, I can't help you. I can't truly help you into where you truly want to get to. And it'll be unsuccessful for both of us. So that has to be part of the management. And I'm fortunate to be able to do that in my practice after years of, I've done the academic thing, I've done the, 30 patients a day thing. You cannot get that kind of attention. You cannot get the answers you need. You can't get the help if you don't get to spend the time.
That is so true. And how did you make that happen?
A lot of butt clenching. We're going to do this. And it's just based on the way healthcare is structured in this country. It's just unfortunate that in terms of between insurance and everything else, it's very difficult. In order to make ends meet, you really have to see more and more patients. And patients being seen by volume means that you don't have time to listen. This is about survival, right? I need to make sure that you're alive walking out of here, right? Now, in terms of when I talk about thriving, that's a whole other thing, because we have to get on the same page, and then we need to get direction, and then we need to have follow-up. But the system doesn't reward you for that. They reward you for keeping people alive and doing surgery. Yeah, the more you cut, the better, right? But there are women who need this, and that's what I met in my old practices. Women who need the time, who want to do better, who want to thrive, but they just need an advocate. And so that's where I volunteered.
Wow. So you just did it.
But just, like a cliff. Jumped. I think that was probably, I did not sleep that night. Wow. And all I remember getting up the next morning, I gave up insurance completely. And I got up this morning and I looked at my schedule and I was like, there's Mrs. So-and-so. I was like, there's one patient.
One patient.
One patient. And
then
it's grown.
That's a pioneer type approach to medicine.
I know, it's crazy, right?
No, it is so needed. I know a handful of doctors who have done that, but it's always because they want that time with the patient.
Yeah. And it's painful though. I mean, it was very painful for me. It's because of it costs money, right? And I know people pay for their insurance, and it's really just terrible the way things are structured. But I think I had a little girl that came in, and she was mid-20s, and I was like, I felt terrible like charging patients. It was just not in my nature. But she came in there and she said, I expected, obviously that certain patients would come back, you try and make predictors in your mind. And she said to me, I will save every month to make sure I see you annually because you take care of me. And I was like, I said, then I'm going to keep doing this. Yeah.
So you take a woman through a complete profile. How long does it take when you have your first visit with you?
Oh, yeah. It takes at least 45 minutes to an hour, and we'd get blood work there. So it's getting the objective and the subjective. We put them together, and then we decide what's our plan going forward. And hormones is only a part of that. That not everybody leaves with hormones. You don't get it unless you need it. But there's so much more to it in terms of second chapter planning, right? The medical side of it too that we have to kind of weigh in always is hormonally, is that we want to make sure that your risks for all things are down, right? You're not just a walking vagina. We need to talk about everything else, right? So I want to know your family history. I want to know who's had cancer. I want to know, do you qualify for breast MRIs? Is that what you should be doing instead of just your mammograms? All of those things are important to delve into. Are you getting your colonoscopies? These are simple things that these women, right, we're second chapter planning. That means I want you here for the next 50 years. So what information...
You've said that twice now, 50 years after menopause.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
Why not? Why not?
I love it,
Right.
but I don't think I've ever heard anyone say you could live another 50 years and thrive.
Right. Don't we say that to our kids?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But we assume, but again, when you start to look at the things that we know, we have data to look at the things that you want to achieve. And that's what I'm saying when I talk about planning. If you want to be at 85, 90, 100, doing 10 push-ups, lifting your luggage above, in the plane. You want to be on the floor with your grandchildren. You can't start that at 75. We got to start that at 50. And then with a clear view, right, of what you want to be. And that's what you tell your kids. It's the same thing.
So what in the world made you start your podcast?
Actually, for the same reason you just said. What was the hole that I was trying to fill? And that's awareness. Because it's obviously a passion of mine. So, but it's so frustrating when women wait. We're making the world turn, right? Everybody's needs but our own. And then we wait until we hit a wall. And that's when I'm getting tears and I can't take it anymore. And why can't we get aware before that so that we can start working in our, 30s into our 40s towards menopause and understanding if you're getting symptomatology that's affecting your quality of life, let's do something about it. So it's really for patient awareness. And so that's why we started talking.
It's like you're really trying to get rid of this bias, this this myth that we can't function. And
I want you walking in with your girlfriends going, I'm going to menopause. What's the big deal?
That's it.
Yeah. I want when men hear it, it's not like, oh my God, she's limp.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Right. She's going into a transition. If I see a hot flash, no big deal. It doesn't change her. Her brain still works. Her body still works. She's at top of her game, and she's wise. Right.
Which is such a big deal.
It's such a big deal.
Yeah, and we know when. Go back to something you said though, because we deal with that in the breast cancer world. It's always that the woman put herself last. And always. I keep saying it is a societal thing. But it has to be more than that. What's your opinion on why?
Why women put themselves last? Sometimes it boils down to culture. In certain cultures, I do feel that women feel that if they put themselves last, that there's somebody keeping track and giving them a tick. Great.
Oh, I've never heard that one.
You put yourself. I feel that there is a sense of if I sacrifice that somehow that energy is going to propel me in a weird way. And I've heard that over and over again. Sometimes it's just that they literally can't find the time and energy to put themselves there. And sometimes they're in a situation where they can't. So I think for various reasons, and I don't understand, if you don't understand your value, right, then it doesn't make sense. If you don't understand that you have nothing to give if you don't put something in the bucket, right, then you can't get your head around making the time in between your crazy schedule to take your mammogram to make sure that you're not dealing with a cancer that is totally treatable if caught early.
Do you have that discussion with your patients,
Absolutely.
or have they already made that transition when they come to you?
No, not at all. I get both. I get both. And sometimes we have to have that. But, again, the hemming and hawing, and I'm not sure. And listen, if it's affecting your quality of life, right, and your bucket is not full, there is nothing to give. You have to fill your bucket first. And it's an awkward conversation. I'm not asked, I didn't say buy expensive shoes. I said take care of your health.
Oh, great.
Right?
Yeah.
I said, why not try and feel better every single morning so that you have more to give to the people around you?
But, we wouldn't, if we were talking to our spouse or our son, we wouldn't even have to use those words.
Right.
Right? We expect that they're going to take care. We expect that we're going to make sure they take care of themselves.
Right. But and you're right. I mean, a lot of it too, I talk a lot about vocabulary, right? And when we use that vocabulary, when we can speak in terms that make sense that everyone understands, then it translates a lot better. And so that's part of it too. When you said why I did the Menopause, well, you're hearing it from my patients. They're giving you vocabulary. They're giving you and empowering you with words to describe why your quality of life is the way it is, and to be unapologetic about that. But sometimes we just, as women, because we don't talk about it, we just don't know the words, even if we do want to get help.
It's the same in breast cancer. How many times have I heard someone say, well, I should have told her, I knew she wasn't having her mammograms, or, all of the things. Just last week we were talking with someone who works in this healthcare field, gone to great extent to have women come from the community, filled out the paper, been through the education, got to the point of walking through the door for their mammogram. Couldn't do it. And I'm thinking, this is 2025. I don't know how we'll ever push past that.
No.
And believe me, menopause would be a bigger challenge because no one wants to talk about it.
Nobody wants to talk about it. And again, it's undoing a lot of what's already been done. You're talking about generations of, suck it up, buttercup. This is what makes you a woman. You're strong if you get through it and you don't complain. That's what makes you strong. Is it really? And the reality is, before 100 years ago, we really be told, without sanitation, without, modern medicine, we'd be dead at about 47.
Oh, yeah.
On average, right? The fact is that we care about it. And now, let's take another lens. Think about it. Like, you can actually be more productive after age 50 than you were before, right?
No, I have been.
Exactly.
I've just been amazed at how, for one thing, you stop wanting to be responsible for everyone.
That's right.
And eventually that fades away.
Uh-huh.
And the other thing is, it's like you've learned it will pass. Yeah, no matter what.
Yep.
Yep. How do you talk to your husband, spouse, boyfriend, significant other when you're picking up that they are annoyed with you because you're in this time?
I think it's an open conversation, and I think it needs to be addressed very early in any relationship in terms of things that happen. Again, with children, we talk about puberty. Like, our kids, if they live long enough, thank God they're going through puberty. Well, if our relationship lasts long enough, we're going to go through menopause, number one. Now, the other thing is that there is, I hate to use the term, but menopause. Men do change also, right? Theirs is just such a gradual change, and they address it faster because they prioritize pleasure, right? So they will tend to address their issues.
Wait. Say that again.
They prioritize pleasure, right?
Wow.
Men prioritize
is that
pleasure.
true?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah, of course they do. They do what makes them feel good, right? Right?
Right.
Do you know a man that doesn't sit on the toilet for 30 minutes every morning? No, very few of them, because it's the best part of their day, right? And I don't wrong them. We need to do that too. But they prioritize pleasure. So they're quicker to go and get help than we are. But it's a gradual decline. Their bodies do change, and their hormones do change. So,
and oh my gosh, if they're without testosterone,
exactly.
Every other commercial, this pill will.
The irony of it is that we also do men, some with the Histouston Testosterone Center, but the irony of it is that because of this kind of nuance and acceptance of testosterone for men, they are a little bit more open. I think that conversation is a lot easier in 2025 because they realize that there is a hormonal deficiency because we're marching forward, right, in maturity. So I think the conversation is definitely easier now from that perspective. Men in general, the other side trying to look at the positives is that there are men who are really interested. But again, we need to have vocabulary to be able to convey what this is, what this transition looks like, and there is another side to it. All right. And also not be afraid to get help. And I think if we do those things, then this conversation, I think in 10 years is going to be moot. Like, oh, okay, this is what's happening.
That would be.
Oh, I think it's possible. I think it's totally doable. The other thing is I think the workforce is going to need, the menopausal women, I need y'all to just value yourself, because we are going to be the ones who teach people work ethic. And this is an important group of women. This menopausal group is going to change history, right? Because you have the wisdom, you get help, your body starts working the way, you have creative ideas, and the world needs you. So this is a very interesting time in history, I think.
Oh, yes. You're absolutely right. There's never been so many women who are educated, have a level of power that they never had before.
That's right.
Have the money, and if they have the vocabulary or use their voice, absolutely.
Yes.
Give us 3 examples of new vocabulary we can use as we're describing ourselves or as we're moving.
That's hard. I think learning the difference between things like vaginal dryness, okay? That it is an actual dryness. It's like starchy, right? And painful, right? As opposed to when they come in and say, well, sex is painful. Well, is it painful or is it dry? Or is it both, right? There are different things and different parts of your pelvis that we need to look into. So those words, I think, have gotten it's very kind of vague in terms of, and honestly, a lot of patients are like, it's down there. Whoa, whoa. We don't have enough hours in the day, lady.
I know.
Right? And from my perspective, there's tons going on down there, right? But we need to be able to address them with the appropriate term. I'm trying to think off the top of my head things that are really obvious. Hot flashes versus night sweats. People say, at night I'm having flashes. No, they're different. Hot flashes, and their actually etiology is a little bit different also. I'm trying to think of really good examples. But I think the more that you speak about it and the more that you hear people use terminology that are related to menopause, then it becomes easier to say it yourself. It's not like, oh my gosh.
I think you've given us some great examples.
Oh, good.
I know, especially the vaginal dryness, as I've talked to my friends, it's almost like, oh, I got dry. There's something wrong with me, but it's psychologically wrong.
Right.
It's a physical thing, woman. I mean,
right. It's dry.
But there's still that, I don't know how to say it. Is it a guilt? It's almost a guilt, like, oh, I'm not ready for him. Oh, I'm not enjoying it.
Right.
Or all of those things that just aren't true.
No. And like the word libido, very medical terminology that women are very getting comfortable using, right? Well, I don't feel like it. Okay. When I ask, do you feel like having intercourse? Well, the difference between libido and being able to have intercourse is that, most women can, get revved, get there eventually. Libido is the de novo, like I feel like a piece of chocolate cake. I feel like some sex, right? Like that de novo, like, oh, he's good looking, right? That innate sense of that side of your body being awoken on a regular basis.
Yeah, it's a sexuality. It's their sensuality. It's all of those things.
And which declines as we get older. So it's important to wake that up because that changes the trajectory of your sexual life as opposed to I can have sex, like I can get through it if my engine is revved and the moon is 180 degrees and I do a black flip, then I can get there, right? But what I'm asking you about that innate sexuality, sensuality that you just feel like this is like vitamin S. I have some vitamin D today. Tomorrow I'll have some vitamin S. Thank you very much.
And you're alive.
And you're alive.
Yes, you're feeling alive. You're glad to be alive.
Yes.
Eager to get out of bed.
Vitality.
Yes. Oh my goodness, what a gift you are giving women.
I am honored.
No, you are. You really are. All right, so as we close, besides encouraging people to listen to Menopause.
The Menopause.
All right, what's that line after that? For women?
This is for women who refuse to pause.
I have listened to every one of them, and they are so good.
Thank you.
And you'll find, there's a big range of age within your patients that are talking.
Yes.
I thought that I was expecting everyone to be old, but it's not because you talk perimenopause.
We don't use the O
menopause.
word, by the way. That doesn't exist.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it doesn't exist. The O word, no.
Oh.
We actually started filming the next portion, which is going to be sex after 70. So
I love that.
Yes, yes, and
Can't wait.
Yeah, and I didn't spawn that. This was spawned by my patients who were like, I want to talk about this.
Don't we in healthcare who are paying attention, every need you ever meet or even try to attempt to make happen is because that woman asked for it. It's because it's a need that's being expressed. I'm just so amazed at how many programs we've started only because we listened and then knew we needed something else. So that's what you've been doing so well.
Thank you.
My goodness, and wish you all the success in the world and can't wait till your new one comes out.
Oh, I'm excited. I'm excited. Yeah. Thank you so much. And I could talk to you forever. Thanks again.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today on Let's Talk About Your Breasts. This podcast is produced by Speak Podcasting and brought to you by The Rose. Visit therose.org to learn more about our organization. Subscribe to our podcast, share episodes with friends, and join the conversation on social media using hashtag Let's Talk About Your Breasts. We welcome your feedback and suggestions. Consider supporting The Rose. Your gift can make the difference to a person in need. And remember, self-care is not selfish. It's essential.